Now, there's another stunning piece of news that is on the Blaze. I have not seen this everywhere, but maybe it's just me. 5 years after the Newtown Massacre, according to the Blaze, stunning warning signs have been revealed in a new FBI report. Have you heard this, Stu?
I had not heard it.
Listen to this.
Until the Blaze.
It has been nearly 5 years since the horrific Newtown Massacre, and now new documents released by the FBI show that there were stunning warning signs about the shooter, Adam Lanza. You might ask, what were the warning signs?
That is what I was asking. That's interesting.
Right. You know, like he was depressed. Is that really a warning sign?
I mean, it's a contributing factor.
Contributor factor. He was not taking his medication.
What are you going to do? Go arrest every person who's depressed in this country?
His mom's got guns. Okay, well,
she's got a Second Amendment right to them. Are we going to go arrest people who have guns in their houses?
Okay.
Because
so here's the warning sign. Okay. Now the FBI has decided to release. A neighbor told police that Lanza had threatened to kill his mom and students before he went on a killing spree. The woman said that she overheard the 20-year-old say, quote, "I'm planning on killing my mom and children at Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut," end quote.
What?
Yeah, but that's it. They didn't have any specific information to go on. "I'm, quote, planning on killing my mom and children at Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut," end quote. She also told police that he had an assault weapon and that she was afraid of him. According to the report, she called the Newtown police, but they told her, well, his mom owns the guns legally, so there's nothing we could do. You should try calling the state police. Another source said that Lanza's mother was concerned about him being a shut-in who hadn't left his room in 3 months. And yet a third source said that Lanza rejected the medication he was provided for his Asperger's syndrome condition, a diagnosis he also rejected.
That is incredible.
So, was that any of that important, do you think? FBI released 1,500 pages from the investigation Tuesday into the shooting that stunned the nation. Some of the information was heavily redacted. Why? Why was it heavily redacted? So, we now know that the police were tipped off, and they said there was nothing they could do. Did they call the mom?
Did they go talk to the kid?
I mean, your kid goes out with a Type 2 look-alike gun, used to be known as a finger gun. You know, that is a Type 2 look-alike weapon now, and police will be called. Your kid has a Type 2 look-alike weapon, and they'll take him down to the station and suspend him. The police were alerted that he had an assault rifle. He was going to kill his mother and shoot children at Sandy Hook in Newtown. The Newtown police were alerted and said, I don't know what we could possibly do. We're investigating the finger gun incident. We already got him in the cage. I don't know if we have enough room. How do you not follow that up?
I don't know. I mean, there's others that, this is one of those things. I had this moment on the anniversary of this one day, and I somehow went down the wormhole of actually reading the details of this story.
Yeah.
It is literally among the worst crimes ever committed in the United States. It's so infuriating because and it's somewhat similar to the Vegas thing in that there's no motive. Like, it's just this guy.
He was disturbed.
He was disturbed. But there was no larger motive. Yes. And then, of course, you're talking about really young kids here.
Yes.
6-7-year-old kids.
Yes.
I'm a dad of 2 in that general age range, and that may be part of why that's playing into my mind. But it's that infuriating, and to think that they could have at least had a chance to prevent it is stunning. That we find that out 5 years later.
5 years later, after we have blamed the gun and everything else, 5 years later, we find out, thank you, Blaze, we find out that they knew and they did nothing. An uptick in violence and protests and fear of the far right in the U.S. Listen to how this is written. According to NBC, the uptick in violence and protest and fear of the far right in the U.S. has forced LGBTQ members in Rochester, New York, to form their safe space at gun ranges. The newly formed Trigger Warning Queer and Trans Gun Club has 18 members meeting once a month to shoot targets and clay pigeons. Now, I have absolutely no problem with this club, them learning how to shoot guns, owning guns. I have no problem.
Interestingly, if you did have a problem, it wouldn't matter because we have the Second Amendment.
Yes. The group's creation was a response to an incident last winter when vandals burned 2 homes' rainbow flags in the area. Gun Club member Jake Allen warns the LGBT community is now taking arms. I want white supremacists and neo-Nazis to know that queer people are taking steps necessary to protect themselves, according to NBC. Listen to this audio.
Once a month, members of this Rochester Gun Club meet in a field for target practice. Some had never touched a gun until this past year.
We have each other's backs. We're acknowledging our fear of a world in which conservatives are the only ones who are armed.
The Trigger Warning Queer and Trans Gun Club formed as a reaction to the recent rise of the extreme right. 2 pride flags were burned in this upstate New York City right after the election of President Donald Trump. Other events, including the white nationalist rally in Charlottesville this summer, further convinced some members of the LGBT community of the need to take up arms.
Often queer people are thought of as being weak, as being defenseless, and I think in many ways this pushes back against that. I want white supremacists and neo-Nazis to know that queer people are taking steps necessary to protect themselves.
I think this is both good and bad. I think this is really, really good on the part of the individual. You know, they start this club up. They have every right to protect themselves. They should show strength. You're not going to make me a victim. This is what the Second Amendment is all about. And I support them 100%. What's bad about this is the reporting. The reporting is you have to be okay with everyone being able to take a gun and defend themselves. This, to be consistent, they should be talking about people like me who also have taken those same exact steps. I haven't formed a gun club, but I could. Taking those steps, training my family to be self-reliant and to make sure that nobody is going to victimize my family. This is great. This is a celebration of the Second Amendment. You'll notice they're not saying anything bad about these people owning guns. They're not calling them nuts. They're not calling them crazy. They're not calling them anti-government. They're not calling them anything that they call you if you're just a hunter and have guns. They're not saying that they love their guns more than they love children. They're saying they have a right to protect themselves, and they are fearful of a country gone wild. Well, so am I. And so are other Americans. And so are women as they walk in the dark to their car and they're afraid of somebody raping them. They have a right to protect themselves. Now, if the media could just make sure that that apple is always an apple, no matter who it is that is saying, I just want to make sure that I'm not a victim. That's an apple. Don't change it into a banana because it's your side. I want to pick up this Rochester gun rights thing one more time. I just want to read one thing. Trigger Warning members stress they are about empowerment and self-defense, not offense. Members say it also gives them a sense of community, even if it comes on a firing line in the middle of farm country. So here's the left taking up arms because somebody was burning gay pride flags, which is frightening. If you're a member of the gay community, that would be frightening if that was happening in your neighborhood. and I would want to be able to defend myself. So what did they do? They started a gun club, and they started, looking at how to protect themselves. I think that's fantastic. My problem with this is did you ever hear this? Did you ever see NBC write something like that about, NRA members? That it's really about, it gives us a sense of community? I mean, here's what people don't understand about if you've never fired a gun or grew up with guns. If you fire a gun and you go with some friends, and studies show this, you go and you bring a liberal friend to a gun range, 9 out of 10 times, they love the experience. And they're like, this is fun. Yeah, it is. It's a great deal of fun. And it takes skill. And if you're with somebody who is good, you're with somebody who is trained, has gone through the NRA course, it's great fun.
I think it was BuzzFeed that took a bunch of anti-gun liberals to the gun range, and
they all came out.
The outcome. They were all really, they just had a great time.
Yeah, they were all like, we'll come back and do that. That was fun. If you've never had the experience, you don't know that the fun you're missing out on. Okay, so it is a fun sport, but it also has something else that if you didn't grow up around guns, you don't understand. And that is that sense of community and, more importantly, family.